Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 336. Once again, for episode, and I really love this number, 180. Episode 180 of the 815 Exchange. And well, it's winning time. Alright, simply put, it is winning time in football. It is playoff time. We had the College Football National Championship last Monday, which of course we're kicking off for the final college football segment of the year. Or, well, of the not the calendar year, of course, because we'll be back in August. But for, the seasonal year, so. Last CFB segment, we're going to kick that off as always. Of course, we have the NFL and the wild card. And I know some of you, after all of the talk the past couple weeks, I know y'all just can't wait. Y'all just can't wait to hear me talk about the Packers. I mean, this might be one of the hotly anticipated segments of the year, is me talking, of course, about the Cowboys. But we will get to that in the main event. And, of course, we had some UFC to talk about in the Roundup and some stuff to preview. We actually had music drop in entertainment, so we have longer than a 1-minute entertainment segment. This also shouldn't be as long, but I don't know. There was a lot of stuff that happened in college basketball. It was a full week, all right? And I had a very full weekend. I was very tired. I got all of that sleep back last night, so I am back energized and ready to go. As always, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. And as always, everything you're looking for in this life can be found in the description. My social media links can be found there, and my timestamps for every segment on the show can be found there as well, and should also be embedded in the video. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this show under the road. Like I said, we're kicking it off for one last time for the season. College football. We had some it was the week of retirements too, but we'll get to that. Like I said, we'll get to it. First, we have to talk about the business at hand, and that, of course, was the national championship. Michigan, number 1 in the country. Washington, number 2 in the country. It's been like this, honestly, for a while. Really, since that Ohio State game really kind of stamped it for Michigan. These have been the 2 top teams in the country. This was the kind of national championship a lot of people predicted as well. So, here we are. It's not the one that ESPN wanted, Didn't get that Bama-Texas rematch, but it is the one that the people wanted, and boy did it deliver if you were a Michigan Wolverine fan, because ladies and gentlemen, the monkey is finally off of the back. Jim Harbaugh has cashed in. Blake Corum has cashed in, and J.J. McCarthy has fulfilled his destiny and accomplished everything he said he was going to do as the Michigan quarterback before he leaves off to the draft, as the Michigan Wolverines, for the first time in a long time, are your national champions. They take out Washington 34-13. Blake Corum, what more is there to say? He is the greatest running back in the history of the University of Michigan. The touchdown king. I mean, there's too many superlatives we can give to Blake Corum. What a phenomenal treat it has been to watch the evolution of him throughout his career at Michigan, and even going back to his time at St. Francis Academy when he was really starting to burst upon the scene in terms of recruiting. So yeah, shout out to Corum. He went out with a bang, 134 and 2 touchdowns. Donovan Edwards, who was supposed, for a lot of people thought, might even surpass Corum as the guy in this Michigan offense leading up into the year, dealt with some injuries, wasn't, getting as much of the load, getting as many touches as a lot of people expected him to get this year. Didn't really have that breakout season. A lot of people thought he might be a sleeper Heisman candidate. Didn't really happen this year. But boy, oh boy, I don't know if Harbaugh and Sharon Moore, were keeping that, in the basket for the national championship. But he looked like Donovan Edwards of last year in the first quarter of this game. Ripped off 2 massive runs that really just set the tone for Michigan in this game. He was the guy that set that tone along with the defense, but Donovan Edwards on the offensive side of the ball on not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 attempts. Donovan Edwards, the Don, had 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just absurd. Honestly thought he was about to be MVP for a lot of this before Blake really took over. But yeah, Donovan Edwards, incredible performance. Set the tone, like I said, for Michigan. And Washington. What did I say last week? I said the key was Michigan had to start off hot. And Edwards was a big part of that. They could not play from behind with Washington, and they did not. Washington did not lead for a second in this game. And that defense for Michigan, man. I mean, Penix got beat up. He got beat up in this game. Of course, we saw Tallover holding his rib. I hope he didn't puncture a rib or a lung or something, because Penix got beat up in this game. I mean, they only had one sack, right? One sack. Somehow, throughout all of that, had one sack, but it was consistent pressure. Showed a little bit of the weaknesses, a little bit of the concerns we had about Penix as a quarterback that kind of keep him from being, in that quote-unquote, I guess what we're calling, that Caleb Williams or even that Drake May tier, perhaps. Showed a little bit of those concerns in this game, kind of trying to deal with pressure and some of the missed throws and the decision makings that, when he has all that time, he's able to be near perfect. But when that crumbles, when that structure's not there, he's a little bit, off kilter. And he was off kilter for sure in this game. Still went 27 for 51, 255, one touchdown, but 2 interceptions, like I said. Mike Sandstrom, Will Johnson, that Michigan secondary living up to the hype. That Michigan defense living up to the hype in this game against one of, if not the best offense in the country. Held Rome in check. They only had 46 yards rushing. I don't know why they kept trotting Dylan Johnson out there with half of 2 legs. All right, not even one full leg, half of a leg with all the injuries he had. Don't know why the board kept, trotting him out there, but they did. But nonetheless, destiny fulfilled for Michigan. Finally got it done. Go Big Blue. Congratulations, they are the national champions. Now this game would have a lot of, really this playoff run, as this was the last, really, end of an era in college football in a long way. End of the 14 playoff, end of the conferences as we knew it. And it was only more fitting for us to end this era with the ultimate cherry on top, or the ultimate tragedy if you're an Alabama fan, and that is with the GOAT calling it quits. Yes, Nick Saban last week finally retired after a storied, long, legendary career as head coach at Bama, Michigan State, LSU, and 7 national championships. Just absurd. All right, just absurd. We could go on and on about his accolades, but I really don't, because if you're a college football fan, you know the impact that Nick Saban has had on the sport. You know the legacy, the shadows, the shoes that his replacement, who we're about to talk about, have to fill, which are pretty much unfillable. One of the ultimate legends of the game, certainly on the Mount Rushmore, I think, of college football. Nick Saban has to be the greatest coach of the modern era. So, yeah, congratulations to Saban. He will no longer haunt your nightmares anymore, SEC. So, congratulations. But, yeah, Saban retires. And then all chaos, all right? All hell broke loose in terms of the college football coaching carousel. We had coaches dropping, "I'm staying," like they were recruits, okay? We had Sark come out. I think Lane came out. Listen, it was from everywhere. If you had a coach with even a minor connection to Bama, you were freaking out, hoping that your coach was going to tweet out that "I'm staying" tweet, all right? But one team, all right? And we thought it was going to be Oregon, but no. The national championship in this Michigan run was not done, because Michigan apparently were the Grim Reapers, all right? And they took Saban to retirement, and they took Kalen DeBoer away from Washington, because, ladies and gentlemen, Kalen DeBoer is your new head coach at Bama. Went out a little bit shaky with kind of how that went down with Washington. The players, obviously, and reasonably so, were felt a little bit, slighted by the way that DeBoer left and how he went about it. I did listen to a little bit of that conversation that was filmed. I think he could have been a little bit more direct and a little bit more honest. Felt like he was trying to protect himself a little bit in a situation where you can't really protect yourself. But DeBoer takes over from Bama. It's going to be very interesting. He's not a great recruiter, but being at Bama, maybe that fixes that. He is, of course, a great coach. We saw what he did at Fresno State. We saw what he's done at Washington, right? He's been a very, very effective coach. Been one of the best coaches in college football. So we're going to see, all right? This is the ultimate test. A lot of people did not want this job, as, appealing as it is to go to the powerhouse, the great powerhouse that is Alabama, the great name that is Alabama. Nobody wants to fill in after Nick Saban. Nobody wants to be the coach that comes after the GOAT, right? Nobody wants to fulfill the shoes of the best ever to do something. It's the ultimate pressure. So we're going to see how DeBoer does, but he does take that job at Washington. And with that done, Washington now has an opening. So who's going to fulfill that? Brings a little bit of chaos there. Of course, this job is not as sexy, of course, as the Alabama one, considering that pretty much everybody from Washington is leaving for the draft this year. And, of course, like I said, they haven't had great recruiting classes. So who was going to fulfill in? Arizona is the team that gets screwed at the end of this, as Jedd Fisch continues to be the greatest mercenary coach in college football. He does not stay more than 3 years, and Arizona is the next victim. He leaves for Washington, which is very spicy as well, leaving for a rival like that. But yes, Fish to Washington. We'll see what happens. We'll see if that, how that does with Fufilled or T-Mac and really how good that Arizona team, like I said, I thought they were going to be very dangerous next year. But with Fish leaving, we're going to see what happens. I know some Arizona players are not very happy about that, but we will see. The coaching carousel is now open. We'll see, how that reverberates. But yeah, congrats to Michigan. Congrats to everybody that is not Bama because Saban is gone. And congratulations to Coach Saban, of course, on a legendary career. Now, switching over to the new dominant college sports segment for the rest of the season. That, of course, is college basketball. And this was not a good week. If you were ranked, this was not. I mean, honestly, on both sides of the coin, a lot of the actual games we're gonna cover are like the women's side, bar Oklahoma, Kansas, because I feel like it's a moral obligation to cover Kansas and Oklahoma in basketball because it's always something. All right, it's always something. But yeah, everybody and their mother got upset. Okay, everybody and their mother got upset. But before we get to that, let's talk about the women's game because we had a lot of great games. All right. We're going to LA first. All right, USC and UCLA squared off yesterday, actually. UCLA took the first one. All right, so how was SC going to respond? All right, at home, how was Southern Cal going to respond? And ladies and gentlemen, Juju Watkins, the throne is hers. All right, after Kate and I guess Paige, even though Paige might stay another year, or after that class leaves, like I said before, it is Juju's for the taking, and she did nothing to discredit that in this game. She was Juju. Wasn't her most efficient game, but ladies and gentlemen, the woman still went 32 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. All right, a phenomenal performance from the best freshman in the country. She is her. All right, for all intents and purposes, she is her. A special talent, near generational, honestly, at this point. But yes, USC gets revenge against UCLA. Very interesting lineup. Lauren Betts, who's arguably been UCLA's best player this year, came off the bench. Maybe it was like a strategic decision in terms of lineups. They wanted to go small to start off to try to match up with USC. I don't know. I don't really understand it. I didn't really get that. But, Betts came off the bench. She didn't have too great of a game. She only went 10-3. She was a big reason why they won the first game. Kiki Rice, the other star on that team, went 3 for 10. All right, that's not winnable. When your 2 stars do not perform the way that they did not perform for UCLA, that's never going to be good against a team as good as USC is. And yeah, Juju did her thing. USC gets the win. They get the win over the rival, 73-65. Fight on. LSU. We were calling super team. There's no excuse for them. I mean, and still, I'm not changing that just because that team has not worked out, in reality as good as they looked on paper. But the problem is very apparent. Now, Auburn gets the win. They get the upset 67-62 over LSU. I found it very funny because a lot of the announcers, like in the lead up to this game, it felt like one of those games where you just got like a feeling that something's going to happen. And I feel like the announcer jinx happened to LSU a little bit in this game because they were all talking about, man, LSU hasn't lost since that run earlier in the season. Haven't lost since Colorado. They're looking like they've got it together. So you just knew. You just knew they were going to lose to Auburn. HSG, she has been the girl. All right, she's been the girl all year for Auburn. She had 21 in this game, led all scores on that Auburn side. Angel Reese had 24 and 11. So you're thinking, man, how did LSU blow this game? Now Angel didn't make gave up that foul, probably a little bit unnecessary at the end of that game. But nonetheless, I'm not going to fault her. 24 and 11, she did what she's supposed to do. Anissa Morrow, 11 and 15, did what she's supposed to do. There is one very, very glaring problem, all right? One very glaring problem on this LSU team. And I really hate to say it because I really do love Haley, but HVL is a horrific fit in this system. She is a horrific fit in the system. She shot 1 for 9 in this game. She is not with this. This team would be unstoppable if they had a playmaker. And HVL, for as much hype as she has, as the 5-star name and the NIL money and the stardom, she is not a playmaker. She's a scorer. But she is not, even though we've been trying to say it really since she got to college, right? She was an electrifying scorer. We became enamored with that, in high school. Then at Louisville, we were like, all right, maybe the playmaking is going to come along, right? She could always score 18, 19 a game. But the playmaking was going to come, right? She was going to develop into somewhat of a point guard, or at least somewhat of a facilitator. That never happened. All right, and it's not going to happen. At this point, it is not going to happen, and it is a detriment, honestly, to this LSU team. because there's enough mouths to feed on this team, and they don't need Haley to be another one. Because listen, the other part of this is we've learned that Haley is not. She's a good scorer. Don't get me wrong. She can get a bucket, but she's not a great scorer. She's not a scorer where you put her in any system and it just works, right? She's going to get a bucket no matter where she's at. No. Not how she works. She is not a... She's a shooting guard at this point. Like, if they had a Hannah Hidalgo, I feel like. If LSU had a Hannah Hidalgo, or, I mean, I could say Caitlin, all right, which is very ironic, considering what Moki said about Caitlin taking 41 shots. If Caitlin was on, which, naturally, she's the best player in college basketball, right? But if she was on this team, she'd be averaging 20 and 20, all right? And LSU wouldn't lose a single game, all right? They'd be They'd be the greatest team of all time, all right? But Haley is just not it, right? She's a good scorer, not a great scorer. She can't score in any situation. It's just a bad fit. She was a much better fit at LSU, where she was kind of that girl. She could work in that off-ball kind of shooting guard, not as the main facilitator, not as that primary playmaker, because it's just not her. It's not her. They try to make her that in the system, and it is just not working. It's going to be the Achilles heel and really limit what this LSU team can do. And it was a problem, all right? It was a problem in this game. It's been a problem throughout the season. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, Auburn gets upset over LSU. Virginia Tech, you're not safe either. Liz had 30 and 12, but when, she had 30, 12, and 5, honestly. But when G goes 5 for 17, you're going to be pretty hard-pressed to beat another ranked team, and that's what happened. Florida State upsets Virginia Tech. After we were talking about, man, VTech retook the crown versus NC State last week. Man, that all came crashing down. FSU gets it done. Bejeda, 31 and 8. Latson, 20. All right, it was a good week for the Seminoles. All right, simply put, very, very good week. Liz did everything she could, but yeah, besides that, when you don't have any other production really, and when your other main star just doesn't have that shot falling, that's going to be difficult for anybody. And yeah, it was difficult for the Hokies. Florida State gets the upset. We're not done. No. All right, Pac-12 supremacy on the line. Colorado, Stanford. And Colorado is the truth. All right, if you didn't know, now you know. All right, if you were wondering whether the hype for Colorado, if the record, did they deserve to be amongst the elite? Here you go. They take out Stanford 71-59 and never really felt like they were in any true danger in this game. I'm not going to lie. They controlled this. Even when it was pretty close early on, they controlled this game from start to finish. It has been a team effort throughout the year for Colorado. They just have so many players that can contribute and contribute at a high level. All right, they are playing team ball and they're getting it done. 5 different players in double figures for the Buffaloes. I mean, what more can you say? That's a dream. That's 50 points at least every time, and then plus whatever excess. That's gonna win you games. All right, that's just winnable basketball. Cam Brink didn't have a great game. As much as I've showered Cam with National Player of the Year and all that stuff, really these past 2 games have not been great for Cam Brink. So Kiki Erfin did everything she could, 19 and 12. She didn't even really have a great game. Stanford shot 34, and this is not from 3, by the way. 34% from the field. You can't win like that, and certainly not against another top 5 team. It's not going to happen. And yeah, Stanford takes the L. Colorado looked very, very, very real, and look even more and more, as we go down the season as potential championship contenders. If they keep playing like this, I wouldn't doubt it. Another championship contender. And let's once again check in on the best player in college basketball. Of course, that is one woman, and that is Caitlin Clark. Your weekly Caitlin Clark, what did she do this week? Well, we had another triple-double earlier in the week, and then in the freezing cold in Iowa, we still had a sold-out arena versus Indiana. And what do you know? 35 and 11. 35 and 11. Yep, and that step back 3. That was pretty. That was from Caitlin range, honestly. Let's call it at that point. But yeah, all right, CC, still her. Iowa wins 84-57 over Indiana, who are a very good team, by the way, and just got destroyed, okay? We've talked about her endlessly, and honestly, I'm going to say it since Dawn and Moki decided to bring it up. I understand she takes, which is unusual, right? For a player to take 20+ shots a game and not be like a glorified chucker, but that's not it. She's the system, right? So she's going to take that many shots, right? The ball is always in her hands, but she is that type of player where you can allow that. All right, and that's why Iowa is so good and so dangerous. It's because of her. It's because she is that efficient taking that much volume. There is no other player in the country doing that can take that much, take that many shots, be that much of a focal point, and still be as efficient as she is. She's simultaneously the best scorer in the country while also being the best playmaker in the country. Arguably the best pure passer in the country. Nobody else like that. She's one of one. Caitlin Clark continues to dominate, and Iowa continues to win. Let's talk about the men. Like I said, we have to talk about Kansas and Oklahoma because it would be sacrilege if we did not. All right? Something always happens in this game, and they're always top 10 teams. And ladies and gentlemen, Kansas, KU on top. They might be the number one team in the country, I think, after the new poll drops because they're the only ones, I think, that didn't lose. Okay? Hunter Dickinson had 24 and 14. He's been hot. All right, Hunter has been cooking. He has been cooking. I know there's a lot of talk. I know a lot of people don't like Big Hunt, but he's been cooking. Looking every bit of the National Player of the Year, All-American candidate that he is. McCullough also cooked once again for Kansas. 21 points for K-Mac. And, Kansas gets it done over Oklahoma. Like I said, that's always a very, very, very good game. KU had it in control. Bill Self remains the best head coach, the best coach, should I say, in college basketball, in my opinion. But, like I said, it was a bloodbath on the women's side, but, boy, it was ruthless. It was ruthless for the top 25 on the men's side, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if we've ever had a week like we had where number 1 lost, number 2 lost, number 3 lost, I think number 5 lost, number 8 lost. Half of the top 25 lost last week. I mean, it was a busy day for pollsters to try to recreate the polls this week. Because, my gosh, everybody took an L. Everybody got upset. I'm just glad that Duke didn't take an L. I mean, Georgia Tech gave us a scare, but you know what? We survived. All right? But, it's looking, like I said, and I said this at the beginning of the season, I think it's going to be another. I know last March was the most chaotic we've possibly ever had. This looks like it's going to be another one. I think I don't know if it's the COVID effect or whatever it is, but there is nobody that is that true, dominant team in men's college basketball. There is nobody that is that true, Zach Edey is, Edey. But besides that, even we've seen Purdue, like we saw this week, very, very liable to, slip up. There is no dominant force in college basketball. There is nobody that's, inevitable. Everybody can get nicked at any time, and that is a recipe for chaos. And we will see that, I'm sure, as we get closer and closer to March. Entertainment, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, ENT. We actually have stuff to talk about besides just Reacher, and Reacher being such a phenomenal, great show that I am incredibly emotionally invested in. All right, we actually have music to talk about, but before that, we are going to talk about Reacher. Okay, season 2, E7. All right, still cooking. All right, I'm very interested to see what I think we're MA. We still don't know exactly, or AM should I say, what he's cooking. Saw him get those what is those? Those are like rockets, or like nukes, some type of nuclear warhead he acquired. Didn't really get too much context, but we're trying to see what he's building, with Langston, who, by the way, finally took a W. All right, and I said it last week. The baddies needed to take a W. All right, they needed to reinforce, should I say, that kind of, that fear of man. Even though Reacher, was probably knowing how the story goes, it's probably going to come out on top, right? We have to provide some weights, all right? And we got that in this episode. Of course, Reacher and Neely were infiltrating the hospital and extracting revenge there. And while they did that, Neely and O'Donnell did get kidnapped and are currently getting tortured. So we will see what happens. Reacher just walked into the compound. They took his weapon. But so I'm very interested to see how Jack gets out of this one, but should be interesting in E8. But yeah, another good episode of Reacher, one of the best shows on television, certainly right now with nothing else really on. Might be the best show on television. I know Echo came out, a lot of people like that, which is very good for Marvel because they needed a W. But yeah, Reacher gets it done. And yeah, we're going to see what happens next week. Like I said, we got some stuff to talk about in music finally, all right? The first real releases of the year, 21 Savage. Of course, we saw that god-awful trailer, which I'm not going to mince words, even though 21 is my guy. That awful, which may have just been advertising, which in some ways is genius because of, marketing reasons. But, whew, all right, that looked bad. With Caleb McLaughlin and Donald Glover trying to be like that, it looked like a Tubi movie. But anyways, we got the album American Dream. Came out this week. It was great. All right, Metro was cooking. I'm not going to hold you. Metro was cooking. I'm only on first listen on both this and the album we'll talk about after this. So no rating. I know I hate to disappoint with the first, albums of the year to give no rating, but I don't want to give them like a too high of a score and then retract it. I think they're both going to be in the high 8s range for me. So very close to album of the year contenders. I enjoyed both of them quite a bit. Didn't really not like too many songs on either one, and I think both rappers did a really good job, especially since both 21 and, of course, Cudi, I'll just say it, were facing a little bit of kind of washed allegations. They are certainly not washed, okay? Certainly weren't washed. 21 is definitely not washed. Red Rum and All of Me, which actually kicked off the album, might have been my two standouts. We'll see as that evolves, but definitely on her first listen. I was like, as soon as I heard those two back-to-back, I was like, all right, we in for something. I don't know what gave Metro the idea to say, listen, 21, we're going to throw a bunch of these old-school samples, and you just cook, but it worked. American Dream, very, very good album from 21 Savage. INSANO, very hyped from Cudi himself. This project, long awaited. I'm actually very proud because a lot of times we see these big rollouts and the albums get delayed. This didn't get delayed. So credit where credit was to Cudi. He dropped this when he said it was. No delays. No, we need to mix this later. So, hey, credit where credit's due. I think A Tell of a Night was my, initial, standout song. But INSANO, very, very good. This was the Cudi I've been kind of looking for. The feature run was a little shaky. At the Party I enjoyed with Trav and Pharrell, but he wasn't too hot in the build up to this. But just to be honest, wasn't too hot. I was a little bit concerned whether I was even going to listen to this album. But the people were like, Leo, you got to give it a spin, and you know what? It paid off. INSANO was still very, very good. So yeah, shout out to Cudi. Very, very good album. Like I said, probably in the high 8s. No official rating. Same thing with American Dream by 21. But yeah, I think they both delivered. Benny the Butcher. Alright, shout out to Griselda. Benny dropped a Braun. A very, very, very good song. I saw somebody on Twitter saying, I was thinking the same thing. You just know Braun in about 2 days is going to post that video in his car or working out wherever where he's horribly messing up the lyrics to the song. But, great promo for Benny. So yeah, The Butcher, he's back. Another great track from him. The Griselda boys, they're always cooking. So no, nothing different. Nothing different. Y'all know how it goes. But ladies and gentlemen, that was entertainment. The National Football League. I'm going to make y'all wait. I know y'all just can't wait. Alright? Y'all can't wait. Y'all can't wait to hear me talk about it. They've been talking about it. I got the TV on to the right of me, of course, and they've been talking about it all day. But I'm going to make you wait. Alright? I'm making you wait. You can skip ahead, but I'm going to make you wait. We're going to do this chronologically. The Texans. Yes, the Texans get the vote. The other team in Texas. The good team in Texas, apparently. The Houston Texans get the win 45-14 over the Cleveland Browns. I did not expect this to be so lopsided. I'm not going to hold you. I thought this, with the way the Browns were playing heading into the playoffs, thought this would be a little bit closer. Hell, I even split it on my playoff picks. Okay, I did not expect the Texans to put it on these boys like they did. But boy, oh boy, did C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans put it on the Cleveland Browns. Good Lord. 16 for 21, 274 and 3 touchdowns for the baby goat. All right, Stroud in his playoff debut looked like Stroud during the regular season, which is a top 10 quarterback in the league. Okay, Nico Collins once again is the favorite target, and he is still cooking. All right, Michigan the state of Michigan has not taken an L at all. Okay, this year they have not lost. And certainly not this past week. This, honestly, I forget how good the Red Wings were this past week, but this may have been one of the greatest weeks in the history of Detroit sports, okay? Because it was just a great week for the state of Michigan, okay? Just a great week, all right? Nico Collins, Michigan alum. That's why I said that. 6 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Christian Harris played like a man out of his mind. He had takeover fully taken over. 8 tackles, 1 sack, 2 TFLs, a pass deflection. Hell, he had a pick 6 in this game, all right? He is going to be in Joe Flacco's nightmares, okay? When Joe Flacco checks his kids in under the bed and he looks under to look for the monster in the closet, it's going to be a picture of Christian Harris, all right? Had that man in the torture rack. Dominant game from him on the defensive side of the ball. Nelson also had another pick 6 of Flacco. Flacco did 2 of them, which is not winning, football. He came back down to earth, and so did the Browns. They get destroyed by the Texans. Congratulations, Stroud is the truth. Well, we knew that. All right, Texans. Again, it appears they're the AFC South team that's going to just surprise everybody and make a run here in the playoffs. You just know there's always that one team from that strange. It's very very strange conference / division. Chiefs. This game was played in negative. I think it was technically -6 degrees in Kansas City. I think it was said that it felt like, -27, almost -30 degrees. I don't even know how you play a football in -20 degree weather. And credit to Rashee Rice, by the way, who had 8 receptions, 130, and a touchdown. And I've bashed this Chiefs receiving corps endlessly, but I'm going to give Rice his flowers, all right? Because he's been the only one with a pulse, all right? The rookie has been the only one with a pulse on that receiving corps. And I got to give credit where credit's due as a fellow receiver. To catch a ball that efficiently in that cold of weather, round of applause, okay? Because, Jesus, I don't even... They could have canceled. They could have postponed that game. I wouldn't have been mad. But, yeah. All right. Andy Reid's mustache is frozen, and so are the Miami Dolphins. Offense, as the Chiefs get it done, 26-7. Taylor is swag surfing in the box with Donna Kelsey, and glory is back to the Chiefs. The Chiefs ran for 147 yards in this game, and that was key, as running always is in a cold weather game. Pacheco had 89 and a tutty. Mahomes even had 47 himself. And like I said, Rice balled out. Travis Kelce, finally welcome back. 7 receptions and 71. George Karlaftis had 6 tackles, 1.5 sacks on the defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs. And Miami had nobody of note because, like I said, the boys are used to that hot weather. In this cold, they froze up, all right? I mean, and Tua have been frozen for a while, all right? Let's be honest, all right? Tua has not been that guy for a minute. He was not that guy in this game, and it did not go well, all right? It did not go well at all, all right? At all for him. Rough, all right? Rough. Questions will be asked about this Dolphins team, and how do they take that next step? Tua might have some, heat under his seat a little bit. McDaniel, he's probably good, but yeah, Chiefs, experience wins, and that cold kills, apparently, and it killed off the Dolphins. Chiefs get the win. All right, here we go. The moment you've all been waiting for, all right, the reason you may have clicked on this video. Eagles fans, who else have I slandered? I've slandered a lot of y'all, so y'all probably been waiting on this one, honestly. The Giants, I think, maybe. Actually, no, I praised the Giants a little bit last week, so y'all might be cool off it, but y'all probably still hate us. Anyways, y'all been waiting on this one, okay? All right? I'm not even, if you're expecting me to get, up in arms and, start yelling and go into, a full-fledged rant, I really do hate to disappoint because as, a near 23-year-old Cowboys fan, I've known nothing but pain. Nothing but pain. I didn't get to see the glory. I didn't get to see the championships. So I've known nothing but this. So I'm actually not mad. I'm just disappointed. It's that type of. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I'm like a disappointed parent. 48-32, and honestly, it was 27-7 at halftime. I was working off a horrific amount of hours of sleep for the past 40 hours. So I came home yesterday and I took a nap, all right? I took a nap, and then when I woke up, I was away from my phone because I was like, you know what? I'd rather just chill on my laptop and play games. I go to look at my phone, and I kid you not, I had 20 unread texts, all of varying nature of, Chris, are you okay? Do we need to put you on a 48-hour watch? Chris, do you see the game? Chris, yada, 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 the Cowboys are getting exposed. All right, all hell broke loose. I was gone for 5 hours, and all hell broke loose. Jordan Love, the Packers. That has to be the greatest feeling in the world, getting drafted as a quarterback by the Green Bay Packers. Because they never have QB issues, by the way. It has to be great as a Green Bay fan, right? You never have to worry about a quarterback. Besides, if somebody gets injured, you never have to worry about it. Because you just always somehow spawn a new franchise quarterback. And Jordan Love is that guy. Which, by the way, big advocate for the, let the quarterback sit and develop. Worked here, clearly. J Love, 16 for 21, 272 in the hat trick. Aaron Jones, 112, hat trick. Romeo Dobbs, 6 receptions, 151, and a touchdown for him. Kayshawn Nixon didn't get a pick, but he did have 11 tackles, 1 sack, and 2 PDs. Jair Alexander had a pick. Darnell Savage had a pick 6. All right? And the Packers, rolled. Okay? Rolled. Dak played like Jalen Milroe. All right? It was a horrific game for him, which is a reoccurring theme here in the playoffs. He is now 2-5 in the playoffs for those that are keeping note. And I know all of you are. He played horrible in that first half. Terrible. God-awful. Played a little bit better in garbage time in that second half, but it was a catastrophe. A catastrophe for him, a catastrophe for McCarthy, who we're going to get to. CD had 9 receptions and 110, and he didn't have a great game. The chemistry was off, apparently. Gallup had 6, 103. Jake Ferguson had 10, 93, and a hat trick, but that hat trick didn't matter. Like the Packers just did. That's such a strange phrase for me to say. Anyways, Green Bay just destroys us, okay? Destroys us. Even with us kind of getting it back, all right, you cannot, let a team score that much and then expect to win in the playoffs. Like, you can't spot them that many points and then think the comeback is on. Like, the Jaguars pulled it off last year, but they didn't give up 48, to the Chargers. That did happen. Here, horrible first half. We tried to clean it up, but it was too little too late. All right? Simply put, it was too little too late. And it's too little too late on this regime. All right? I'm over it. I'm over it. McCarthy was fun as a stopgap. We saw it. He made Dak a little bit better. We won a lot of games in the regular season, which we seem to do when we have a half-decent team. We do that. So, I'm over it. All right? McCarthy, respectfully, gotta go. He got to go. He's not that guy. He's not the head coach to move this forward. We need to go younger, get one of these young, great minds in football. I don't care. Really, I prefer on the defensive side of the ball because I think our offense is going to be fine regardless. But we need one of the great young minds in football. All right, I'm tired of the older stopgaps because it's just not working. Okay, McCarthy is not that guy. He ain't going to elevate us. Dak is a weird situation where he's a good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback. But it's that part, he's in that position, that place where it's so risky to get rid of him because we could very much so very easily downgrade, and that could be a detriment to the team. But the appeal of finding somebody better than him that could potentially elevate this team after so many years of a playoff failure or him underperforming, when it matters, is so attractive. But it's a very high risk, potentially a high reward situation. It's very, very risky. So I don't really know where to kind of align on that. I know McCarthy has to go. Dan Quinn, as much as we, create turnovers and as good as Micah and, whatever cornerback it is this season, which it was bland this year, perform when it matters. 49ers game and this game didn't show up. So Dan Quinn can go too. All right. Whole coaching staff can go for all I care. But I would prefer not to waste some of this young talent, CD, Micah, so on and so forth, waste their primes and lose out on what could be a Super Bowl winning team, right? We have certain pieces, not a complete team, not quite maybe Super Bowl ready, but certainly better than losing in the wild card with all due respect to the Green Bay Packers again. So, I want better, but, sorry to disappoint. No rant, but, McCarthy, respectfully, take your severance package and get up out of this team. Dan Quinn, you can go too. Dak, we will see. But Jerry, please make a move, all right? Please, let's not waste some of the great young talent we have on this team. You know a team that's not wasting the young talent on this team? You know a team that has found their culture? You know a team that has found their head coach of the future? Has found their team, those pieces, is starting to put it together. I don't think they're ready, like I said earlier in the year, yet, but will be soon, that are headed in that right direction, headed in the opposite direction of the Dallas Cowboys. You remember how I said it was a great week for the state of Michigan? Another reason was because, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time since you were probably, even beyond, maybe even a decade before you were even born, depending on how old you are watching this video, for the first time in 32 years, ladies and gentlemen, the Detroit Lions have won a playoff game. Congratulations, Detroit. Y'all want to play. I mean, and it was a very good game, by the way. Very evenly matched between them and the Rams. So credit where credit's due to the Rams. They played a very, very good game. Goff went 22 for 27. Against his old team, by the way. All right, Goff, 22 for 27, 277 and a touchdown. ARSB continues to fight on. Be that guy. All right, been that guy. All right, number one caliber receiver. If you knew, you knew, and now everybody knows. All right, 7 receptions, 110 for the man himself, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Hutch had 2 sacks. Literally everybody. This was like a great full. Like Gibbs scored, Monty scored as well. This was a great full circle moment. I get why Lions fans were crying, because if I had won a playoff game, which sometimes it feels like that as a Cowboys fan, in 32 years, and then just suddenly just everything works in one game, I would cry too. Honestly, I would cry too. So I get it. Rams, like I said, weren't bad. All right, Stafford 367, 2 touchdowns. Puka ends off a phenomenal and one of the great, if not the greatest, rookie season for a receiver ever, with a 9-reception, 181-yard, which is the rookie playoff record. 181-yard in the touchdown game. Honestly, they don't even need. I mean, I would keep Coop, but he has been that replacement very, very easily. So yeah, shout out to Puka on a phenomenal season. Ernest Jones for them, by the way, had 9 tackles and 2 sacks. But like I said, the Lions defense bent at the end of this game. They bent, gave up those 2 field goals, but they did not break. And that is a testament. All right, there was no more fitting kind of description of the Detroit Lions and that culture that Dan Campbell has created for them throughout this season and how they're heading, in the sense of they may bend, but they do not break. This Lions team, no matter what came through them this season, whether it was losing Laporta or, losing some of those games that maybe, it looked like they could win, they didn't break. They always came back into the next week, and, credit where credit is due, like I said to Campbell, for motivating this team, getting them sharp every single week. They never let it linger. You never felt them lose that confidence. And I think that's the best, indication of a great head coach and a great young team headed in the right direction than this kind of bend but do not break mentality that we saw at the end of this game and we've seen throughout the year for the Lions. So yeah, credit where credit's due. Congratulations, Detroit. Congratulations to the state of Michigan, like I said, on a great week in football. And yeah, shout out to the Lions. They get the win. We ain't done, though. We ain't done with this NFL segment, because we also had a GOAT retire. Bill Belichick. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sith Lord down south called it quits. So naturally, it was time for the Sith Lord up north to call it quits as well. Bill Belichick calls it a career. Similar to Nick Saban, I really do not need to give you any type of historical overview. You know exactly who the man in the hoodie is. You know exactly what he has probably done to your team, because everybody was a victim when he had Tom Brady. All right, that was the dynamic duo. It was like Duncan and Popovich, whatever you want to call it. All right, any of the iconic duos, Phil Jackson and MJ, whatever you want to call it. All right, they're on that pantheon. They are, undisputably. And yeah, Belichick, of course, retires arguably as the greatest coach of all time. And yeah, that Patriots team, I think it was just time. He didn't really have it. That team didn't have it. It was time to, spice it up, go in a new direction. Gerard Mayo, listen, the great elite middle linebacker to head coach pipeline is undefeated. All right, it is undefeated. Vrabel, Antonio Pierce, I could go on and on and on. All right, that is undefeated. Gerard Mayo, he takes over as head coach in New England. A black coach in Boston is very interesting. So we will see what happens there. Hoping for the best for him. But yeah, end of an era, man. It's the end of an era really in football with Belichick and Saban, both retiring. And honestly, to add on to that, another one of the, really you could say Mount Rushmore for coaches, right? If Belichick dominated the NFL and Saban had college football, there was one coach in this modern era that was able to transcend both college and the NFL. There was one. One of the very few, if not the only, I think. Or maybe I think one of 3, I think they said. But certainly one of the only in the, recent times to win both a Super Bowl and a national championship. And that is, of course, the great Pete Carroll. And as a USC fan, this one hit hard. He retires to the front office in Seattle. Went out with pride. Seattle wasn't horrible this year. Nearly were a playoff team. So him, passing on the reins with some respect, I think is a really good way for Pete to go. Of course, he was getting up there in age, 72 years old, so I got no problem with it. He retires a football legend, a legend in USC, a legend in Seattle. So, yeah, 3 of the greatest coaches, I think, in the history of our sport all retire this week. So, yeah, certainly an end of an era, but the playoffs are only heating up. We got the rest of the wild card this week, and, of course, next week, today, should I say, the rest of the wild card. And, of course, next week, 181, we will talk about what used to be where the Cowboys would collapse, and that is the divisional round. But, unfortunately, we were a week early. Roundup. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to the Roundup. Of course, we're starting off with some combat sports because we have some stuff to talk about in UFC. All right, first UFC event of the year, UFC Vegas 84. Simply put, all right, very violent start. We started off with 2 straight KOs, by the way. Very violent start, and it was a very violent main event for Johnny Walker. Because Ankalaev, which I'm not really surprised, I'm not going to lie, I felt like this was a little bit of a mismatch. But anyways, Ankalaev makes quick work of Johnny Walker, takes him out in round 2 with the KO. Not really surprised. There are levels, okay? And this was one of those fights where, as we say, there are simply levels to this. Okay? Levels to this. Ankalaev is on a different level. This week, all right, we got a major UFC event coming. UFC 297. Not a great card. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and be like, yo, we got one of the best cards of the year to kick off the year. No, all right? This is like a filler main card before we get to UFC 300 and really UFC 298 and 299 because those cards kind of got some heat with them too, especially 299. But here we are, 297. Sean Strickland defends his middleweight title versus DDP. Of course, this was supposed to be Izzy, but Izzy, I don't know if it was burnout or what it was, but he didn't show up to fight Sean Strickland, so Sean Strickland took that title off of the boy, took it off of the last style bender. So now he makes his first defense against DDP, and not the, fan favorite DDP. We're talking about the South African DDP. So we'll see what happens. Honestly, I can see it going any way. Strickland, we get to find out how good he is. DDP might get the ultimate thing to say to Adesanya and be like, ha, I took your title. I knew it was going to happen. I beat the guy you couldn't beat, yada, yada, yada. So, yeah, should be interesting. The co-main event is not a most thrilling one, but we will see a bantamweight champion in women's division that is not Amanda Nunes for the first time in a while. So, Myra Buena Silva is taking on Raquel Pennington. So, we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, not too thrilled for this card. But, of course, we'll still be tuned in and we'll see what happens. It can still deliver. You never know. It's the UFC. You never know. Boxing. Artur Beterbiev is a monster. All right, he's a monster. He destroyed Callum Smith to a lot of people in Britain's surprise for some reason. Don't know what gave y'all the inclination that Callum was going to win, but, I admire, the homerism. I really do. I admire a true fan, but it wasn't going to happen. All right, there is very clearly 2 people in that division that are better than everybody else, and that is why they hold all of the belts. And that is why we're getting that fight next, and, of course, that is Bivol and, of course, Beterbiev. But, yeah, he takes him out in round 7. I can't wait. All right, I can't wait for Undisputed, Bivol, Beterbiev. I've been asking for it forever. Everybody else in boxing has been asking for it forever. It is time. One of the hardest, most punishing hitters in our sport versus one of the best pure strategists and one of the best pure boxers, almost like a chameleon. The way that Bivol can adjust to opponents. And he can also dish it out as well. So, yeah, that's going to be a great one. I will not be picking. I will simply be enjoying when that happens. But, yeah, let's make that happen. And to end off, unfortunately, on some sad news, Ja Morant literally came back last week or 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, tore his labrum, so he is out for a season. So, yeah, Ja appears, does his thing, hits a game winner, and then tears his labrum with no explanation. So, yeah, that sucks for Grizzlies fans. And, honestly, as an NBA fan, also sucks for us as, for pure entertainment. But this season is a wash, all right? For the Grizzlies, it's a wash, okay? This season is dead. It is a nightmare season. No Ja to start the season. Then you have him for 2 weeks and he gets, finished for the season. So, wishing him the best on his recovery. And, we'll see what happens there. NBA, pretty much more of the same this week. All right, nothing really too much to talk about. Joker doing Joker stuff, people getting injured, the Pistons suck. So, y'all get it. All right, y'all know what's going on. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you have a great week as we continue here in January. I've had a really good start to the year, so hoping to keep that momentum going. But without further ado, for episode 180, Ocho signing off.